All right, welcome back to the part 3 of the series. At that point, we were discussing the member loop file, and we're going to dig into it and explain everything step by step. So let's get into it. Here we are. Okay, so once again, let's go how we got here. Basically, it's in the theme, and it is the folder collected from the BuddyPress plugin templating system, and then we dug down into the members and the index file that is surrounding the whole thing, but the internal stuff belongs in the members loop.php, which is this file. So now let's go over this. Here at the very beginning, I'm adding a custom ID so that I can take over the styling. And here's also, this is where the actual member loop begins. I just added one extra string here, which is alphabetical, because otherwise the default is whichever member starts first. That's how they organize it, but my client needed alphabetical, so, and that's the reason, as you can see, all the A's are on top. So now here is the BuddyPress based pagination function. That's bringing us this guy right here. And now let's go first focus on the ACF, which is our availability and verification, which we covered before. These guys are coming from this custom fields. We come here, we find the admin fields for the athletes only. We click on it, and there we find our variables. But this one though is a little bit out of the ordinary compared to other regular ACF fields, because this is assigned by row. So implementing this is a little bit different, as you can see here. First thing we have to do, collect the ID. ID is going to be used for the rest of it too. But right here we have to recreate a string with the ID, which is, this is how, you know, ACF Pro people tells us to do. So that's how I followed. That's what I followed. So first of all, you have to use this user string and then add the ID with it, and then you go to here the get field, which is a ACF Pro function. This is where we are using our field IDs from here, athlete verification, athlete availability, these guys. And then I'm using this created variable right here, and only then we get the results that we can show right here. Okay, there's more to it. As we get get deeper, we'll find out. Now here's something that I skipped in the last video, this visitors function, right? So basically this profile views, right? The profile views is coming from this plugin right here, BuddyPress recent profile visitors. So there's not much we do, in the backend, but once we install it, it gives us some functions and variables to work with, and that's exactly what I'm using. I'm getting the unique visitor count and putting them in and using that ID to put them in a variable, total unique visitors, and this is something we will display in here, right? Profile views. The verification, I had to create a logic here. If it is set to no, then we print out this piece of HTML. Otherwise, print out this one, which is basically shows these two different colors or different icons. One is X and one is a check. So we are verifying that right here and generating this variable so that we can display it on the HTML. Same thing with the availability. In case you're wondering, let's go back to user and then user profile, and going down, this is where they are. So depending on your choices here, we create the logic right here and display right here. All right, so now let's keep going down. Okay, now before we go any farther, let's deal with these guys right here. It's a very important part. So remember these fields, the sports, about, nationality, etc. right here. These guys, and then these guys eventually show up here under the extended profile. Names and athlete types, or the sports, whatever. So basically these guys can be collected using this amazing little function. And this ID right here, we have to go collect from here. For example, if we want gender, we go edit. Once we come here, this is where the ID comes from. That's the field ID. They're always unique. So that's the ID we collect and use right here. For example, the gender we looked at, look, this 7, right? And then the user ID comes from right here. And this is just part of the function. So this is how, no matter where we are, we get to collect all the variables and put them, all the data, and put them into variables like this so that we can use them later and display them in the front end here. And as we dig down to the template, we'll see where we do actually finally use them. All right, moving forward. We will explain all these. We will come right back to it, but let me just show you what's happening here. Yes, look at this. Okay, now before we explain this, we have to go back to our original page. Basically, what's happening is, as you know, we can actually filter them, right, by sports name and availability, whatnot, right? So how are these happening? Not only that, we can also go deeper and go into, let's say, specific to sporting events, and we can filter them by that sporting event specific items. So how are these happening? So let's inspect a little bit. So when we come here, we actually see these are all classes being added. The tennis, the female, available, unverified, 2020, the class, the United States, which is the country, and then all the other sport specific items like UTR, 1 to 1000, etc., right? So in order for us to be able to filter everything, we need to put all these classes in each item, in each athlete item. And all these are dictated by whatever they add in their profile. And also keep in mind, these are coming from the front end. Really, I'm showing you the back end, but the front end editing happens in the user profile or member profile. So when we tackle that member profile page, we will get into much more detail how these are happening. But the bottom line is, whatever the user put in here, or what their sports type is, or their criterias and stuff like that, everything we have to convert into classes, and these classes we collect up here. So that's what's going on. Pretty much every single time we have to check whether or not it is the correct sports, and depending on that we fill up these we fill in these sport specific items and collect the necessary data with exact same field ID and put them in the variable. And in case it is not basketball right here, so we just empty them out, so that when we are still calling them at this point right here, so they empty themselves out, because we don't want, you know, hockey stuff showing up in football and vice versa, right? Okay, so now we know the source of all these. Now let's go see how we are actually using them. Right here, all those variables up top, this is the result we are echoing here. And then here's the info bar where the profile view is, enrollment year. All these are right here, controlled by CSS, making it looking pretty. So once we have our variables, we implement them right here, and this is where BuddyPress finishes out the loop. Even though styling is not the focus of this tutorial, but I'm going to show you exactly where it is located and how it looks like. So for this loop and these index pages, we have to go under assets and source, SCSS, and I created a special folder for BuddyPress and BP Global. Created a index here, so let's copy that and Control F, and let's go down, boom, right here. So this is where athlete index, the ID I created, and the sidebar, the whole 9 yard, the top blue bar happening, and we can go side by side here. Advanced filter, styling, and the menu stuff, and then this is the ID, athlete index container, and this is where all the stylings are. And that's pretty much it. So this explains all the background code for this body part of it, this athlete item block. And in the next videos, I will cover the code behind this filter and the advanced filter. Thanks for watching.